The second apron is basically a hard cap. Let's discuss if that's actually a good thing or not. So, I'm actually a huge NFL fan. I follow the NFL very closely, and I wanted to try to think of trades that resemble the Jaylen Brown trade in the NFL. And the four trades that I looked up that kind of resemble what happened with the Jaylen Brown trade is first the DeForest Buckner trade. And the Niners had just made it to the Super Bowl. They were deciding between Buckner and Eric Armstead, and they decided to go with Eric. And instead, they traded Buckner for the 13th pick to the Colts, who gave him an $84 million extension. And Buckner was a homegrown star, similar to Jaylen Brown in his prime, and they could have kept him, but they knew that in order to have a good, well balanced cap situation, they would have to decide between the two, and they went with Eric Armstead. So that was, I mean, this is a very similar deal in that sense, but the difference is they got the 13th pick for him, for Buckner, which is way better than what the Sixers had to give up for Jaylen Brown. The second trade, Tyreek Hill, Kansas City traded Hill to Miami in 2022 for 5 draft picks. And it's a similar thing, you know, Kansas City decided, hey, Mahomes is talented enough. We could live without Tyreek Hill. We don't have to pay him such a big contract. And let's just deal him now. Yeah, he's in his prime. Yeah, that pairing is pretty much unbeatable. But we think we could win a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. And they were right. And I think the Celtics are trying to make a similar bet in that sense. But again, another difference is, you know, the Celtics ended up taking a lot of salary back. And so in the NFL, draft picks are really valuable, just like in the NBA, but even more valuable in the NFL because you have players under contract making a fraction of what they actually deserve sometimes with the rookie scale contracts in the NFL. So, yeah, it's the same case in the NBA, but the difference is a lot of rookies in the NFL could come and contribute faster than in the NBA, I think. Now, another trade, AJ Brown from Tennessee. This one was a first and a third round pick. AJ Brown going to the Eagles. And with that first round pick, the Titans selected Treylon Burks. Ended up not working out for them. But again, they got a high draft pick. They got what you would consider fair value for AJ Brown. And then you go back to the Jaylen Brown trade, and it's like, yeah, they didn't get that type of first round capital, or what would be equivalent to that first round capital. Obviously, they got first round picks in the future, but they don't look like they're going to be that valuable. Fourth one, Ladarius Sneed was on Kansas City. They traded him after winning back-to-back Super Bowl champions. And again, like, they ended up trading him to Tennessee for a future third-round pick, late round swap, and he committed to Tennessee long term. And again, Kansas City had to prioritize Chris Jones. So again, it's like you could only pay so many guys in the NFL. The quarterback salary takes up a huge percentage of their cap. And in the NBA, it's similar in that one player can take up 35% of the cap. That's where the Celtics didn't want to pay two players taking 35% each, adding up to 70%. That's just a lot. And so, you know, I'm drawing connections back to the NFL because I like the hard cap in the NFL. I like that the NBA has kind of shifted towards that. I don't think that players personally like it, but I think it has gone too far. One thing is I enjoy parity. Not everyone does. I know some people like dynasties, and I like dynasties too to some extent, but I like that you never know who's going to win. I think the NFL has more of that parity compared to the NBA, but not lately. Lately, the NBA has killed it with 8 or 9 different champions in a row. Um, and we're going to see if that continues. But, I do think parity is good for the league. So, how do you keep parity, but how do you also not make it so difficult for stars to stay where they are to some extent? You want teams to be able to afford at least 2 stars. You don't want to break up Shaq and Kobe. You don't want to break up Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I don't think that's what the NBA wants. And I think they're going to take a hard look at the second apron after this. I don't necessarily think they're going to break up the second apron, but I do think there's some changes that they could potentially make. And the reason I think they should make those changes is, one, we want to keep parity. 2, you don't want a trade like this with Jaylen Brown getting sold for pennies on a dollar. I don't think that's what the NBA wanted. The NFL, with the trades I mentioned in the NFL, those trades worked out because those players still got equivalent value on the marketplace. Those top players were not seen as negative assets. What I'm trying to say is I don't want to see players get traded for pennies on a dollar when they're actually should be worth a lot more. I'm going to suggest the same thing, many people, including Zach Lowe, mentioned was, instead of having a player take up 35% of the cap, that player can still get paid 35% of the cap, but it only hits the books 25% of the cap or 30%. I would say let's do 25. And so that way a team can afford to pay 2 stars. So the Celtics would be able to give Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown 35% of the cap each, and they would be able to get paid 70% of the cap total. But on the books, it would only hit 25 and 25, so 50% of the cap. This way, the players still get paid. The middle class of the NBA won't get screwed over like they are now. And teams will be able to retain their stars and be able to afford 2 stars comfortably. And to me, it doesn't matter if they were a free agent. I don't care if they were traded. It doesn't matter if they were drafted. I don't think one is more ethical or deserves this bonus instead of the other. The Knicks should still be able to pay Brunson 35% of the cap and only get hit on 25% of the cap, for example. They were able to find value in Brunson where most of the league didn't think he was worth that money at that time. So, again, there's no perfect fix. I do think the NBA is headed in the right direction with parity and with basically a hard cap. But I do think there's things they can make changes to where players like Jaylen Brown aren't seen as a negative asset because of how much they're getting paid. And this is all because of the Supermax. And the Supermax, it's been painful for a long time for teams to pay them. It's been Sacramento decided not to pay DeMarcus Cousins and traded him. The Bulls decided not to pay Jimmy Butler and decided to trade him. So you're seeing players get traded in their prime just because you develop the talent at home, you develop them into a star, and then you have to pay them where you don't feel comfortable, where it hits your cap in a negative light. I do think this is a possible solution, but let me know what you guys think, if you think there's a better solution out there. Obviously, I don't think anyone agrees with the value of what Jaylen Brown went for, and I think there just has to be better options out there. So I appreciate you watching. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.